Hi everyone, my name is Carter and I'm the developer of Exothermic Designer. In this video, I'll give you a high-level introduction to how to use the tool. In future videos, I'll dive deeper into specific features. So let's get started. When you first start Exothermic, you should see a screen similar to this. Click the Create Scene button. This will open a new window with the settings for the new scene. You can edit the dimensions by clicking on the measurements, or you can choose from one of the presets. Scenes can be one of two formats, raster and vector. I'll go into the differences between the two in a later video. For now, we'll just go with raster. When you're happy with your choices, click Accept. This is the default layout of Exothermic. There are several panels and toolbars which will all get introduced. Let's start with the biggest panel, which is the Viewport. You can think of this as the canvas. This is where all your artwork is shown. At the bottom are buttons to turn on various features such as grid and rulers. To the left of the viewport is the main toolbar with different tools for interacting with the viewport. Let's go ahead and start creating some graphics. The bottom of the toolbar has tools for creating primitive shapes. These are often a good place to start. I'm going to select the ellipse tool. You use the primitive tools by clicking and dragging in the viewport. When you're happy with the shape, release the mouse button and the shape is completed. Some of the primitive tools are a little more complex. Let's look at the star tool. The star tool has two steps to it. First, we'll click and drag, just like the ellipse tool. This will draw the first radius. When you release the mouse, you start the second phase of drawing the star. Drag your mouse to adjust the second radius. When you're happy with how it looks, click and release the mouse to complete the shape. At the top of the viewport are the tool settings. Depending on what tool is selected, these properties will change. We can change the settings before or after using the tool if the shape is still selected. Let's change the number of points on the star. Most numerical values in Exothermic can be changed by clicking and dragging the mouse left and right over the value. You can also just click on a value to edit with the keyboard, like so. Now that you've got a couple shapes, we'll explore how to style them. At the top of the main toolbar are two swatches. The top swatch controls how the selected shape is filled. The bottom swatch controls the stroke, or outline of the shape. Click on the top swatch to open the menu. At the top are four different fill types: solid color, gradient, pattern, and no fill. I'm just going to switch it to gradient and select one of the presets. Now let's adjust the stroke. The top section controls how the stroke is filled. The bottom section controls the properties of the line itself. Let's change the thickness of the stroke a little bit. Now I'm going to introduce you to the different component modes. Near the top of the main toolbar are different modes for interacting with shapes in your scene. The top mode is the layer mode. Every item in your scene is drawn on its own layer. The layer mode lets you select, move, and transform the layer of the selected objects. The next mode is point mode. With this mode, you can select the individual points that make up a vector shape. You can select and manipulate them one at a time, or by dragging a box, you can select multiple. When more than one point is selected, you will notice a gizmo in the viewport that you can use to transform the selected points in numerous ways. You can turn the gizmo on and off from the toolbar at the top of the viewport. The next component mode is the span mode. Spans are the lines between each point. They can be selected and manipulated just like the points. We'll cover the other component modes in later videos. Next, I'll show you the graph panel. This is really the heart of Exothermic. All the artwork in your scene is actually being created by nodes, which are blocks of code that perform specific tasks. As we've been working, you might have noticed that nodes are automatically created. Exothermic manages the graph for you when you're working in the viewport. You can use most of the features of Exothermic without ever needing to interact with the graph. You can even close it if you want, but by ignoring the graph, you'll miss out on a lot of the power of the tool. So if you're overwhelmed by it, I suggest letting the program handle it while you get comfortable, and then come back to it later. For now, I'll just introduce it. When an object is selected in your scene, the graph will show all the nodes that Exothermic is using to create that object. The top, rounded node is the layer. The other nodes are creating the data that draws the shape. Each action you perform in the viewport is recorded as a node. You can go back to any previous step you want. You can control which node is rendered by clicking the button on the left of the node. Only one node can be rendered to a layer at a time, so clicking it will toggle the currently rendered node. Over here on the right is the parameter editor. You've probably noticed that as I've been selecting different nodes, this panel has been updating. Each node has properties associated with it that control how it functions. You can adjust these properties to change how the node operates. Notice that you can select any nodes in the graph and change their values. We can go back to the original star node and tweak those values. The graph will reevaluate all the later nodes. This is the power of a non-destructive workflow. You can even delete nodes in the middle of the graph. Using the graph in this way, you can really cut down on the need to undo. Plus, it's really fun to play around. Now let's discuss the layer panel. This panel should be familiar to you if you've ever used a drawing tool before. The layer panel lets you control the order in which layers are rendered. Drag and drop layers to change their order. You can also make parent and child relationships. Just drop one layer onto another to make it a child. Now, when we make changes to the parent layer, the child will be well behaved and follow along. When a layer is selected, since it is a node, its parameters will be shown in the parameter editor. The parameter editor will also show the parameters for the node that is currently rendering on that layer. The last of the panels we will be discussing is the library at the bottom. Projects in Exothermic can contain many different scenes and other assets. These assets live in the library. Right now we've only got the one scene, but let's go ahead and create a new scene. I'll leave the settings the same and click Accept. In this scene, I'm going to introduce the drawing tools. The primitive shapes are good as a starting point, but sometimes you want to draw from scratch. We'll start with the Draw tool. The tool behaves similar to most every other Bezier path tool on the market, though it does have some tricks up its sleeve. The tool has a couple different drawing modes, the main ones being lines and curves. Let's start in line mode. In line mode, when you click with your mouse in the viewport, a point is placed. When you click, you can drag the mouse to move the point. Each time you click, a new point will be added, and a line will be drawn to the previous point. Click back on the first point to close the shape and fill it. If we switch to curve mode, we will draw curved lines. Just like line mode, when you click your mouse, a point will be created. But now, when we drag, we are manipulating handles, which control the curve of the line. You can create sharp corners by holding down the Alt key while dragging. With the Draw tool, you can also add points to existing lines. Click anywhere on an existing line to insert a new point. You can also drag after clicking to slide the point along the line. Now for what makes our Draw tool a little special. You can start drawing from any existing point. You've probably noticed a green circle around the point you've been drawing. Think of the Draw tool like a real-life pen. When the pen is touching the paper, the green circle shows where the pen location is. When you place a new point, it moves the pen to a new position, drawing a line along the way. As long as the pen is down, a line will be drawn. You can raise the pen by either connecting to an existing point or by clicking the little stop sign next to the active point. You can then move to a new position and start drawing a new line. Clicking on an existing point when there is not an active point will set that point as active. You can then start drawing off of that point. Using this technique, you can create compound shapes that are interconnected. The other drawing tool is called the vector pen. It is very easy to use. Just click and drag to freehand draw a path. Exothermic will take care of placing the points for you. After the path is drawn, you can refine it by adjusting parameters in the editor. You can draw off of an existing path by clicking near a point on the selected path. As long as the point is within the connect radius, it will connect to the point. The last tool I'm going to show you is the Raster paintbrush. This is a very powerful tool with endless possibilities, but for this video, I'm going to keep it simple. You paint with the tool just by clicking and dragging with your mouse. Right now I'm just using a simple round brush. You can load a different brush by clicking here and selecting from the presets. Let's load the Speckle Brush. All the brush parameters are shown in the toolbar at the top of the viewport. If you look down here at the status bar, you'll see what keys can be used to interactively change parameters. In this case, if we hold down the B key while in the viewport and drag the mouse, the size of the brush will interactively change. And don't forget, because everything is non-destructive, you can come over here to the parameter editor and change the properties of the brush after it's been drawn. You can even change the brush itself. In another video, I'll show you how to edit and create your own brushes. The last thing I'll show you is how to export your artwork. Come up here to the File menu and click Export Raster. Here you've got your choice of different formats with their various settings, and a preview of what the output will look like. Click Accept to open the file manager and pick a location to save the file to. And there we have it. That should give you a basic understanding of how things work. Exothermic was designed to inspire creativity. Play around and have fun. When you're ready to learn more, come back and watch some more videos. Thanks for watching.